October 7th, 2019, Cape Coral, Florida. In a 12-hour window of pure malice, Wade Wilson ended the lives of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz. This wasn't just a crime, it was a display of overkill. After taking Christine's life in her home, he encountered Diane walking to work. He didn't just strike her with his car, he drove over her body repeatedly until she was unrecognizable. In his own words, he wanted to make her look like spaghetti. This level of cruelty didn't appear overnight. Wilson's record was a blueprint of escalating violence. With a history of battery and domestic incidents, he had been practicing moral agency evasion for years. The Deadpool tattoos weren't a costume. They were the final outward expression of a man who had long ago decided to exist outside the boundaries of human empathy.
He was excited.
Watch his reaction as this father describes the spaghetti comment. There is no flinch. This is effective flattening.
Did he seem proud of it?
Yes.
While normal human psychology would recoil at such imagery, Wilson remains in a state of postural congruence with his crimes. He isn't ashamed. He is bored. Yet, as the gruesome details emerged, the internet did something terrifying. It made him a star. On TikTok, thousands of fans were caught in a wave of hybristophilia. Obsessed with his tattoos and dark charm, they curated edits of a man who had just admitted to crushing a mother of two under the weight of a car.
Why is he doing that? Who knows? He's sick. He's got a diseased mind.
With the evidence overwhelming, the defense turned to their final gambit. They began to scream that Wilson was ill, that his brain was diseased from years of drug use and head injuries. This was a calculated linguistic deflection, an attempt to turn calculated predator into a medical victim to avoid the ultimate legal consequence. Was he a man who lost his mind, or a man who finally showed us his true, hollow core? We are about to unmask the digital Deadpool and reveal the clinical reality of the man who tried to use insanity to hide the truth. To understand the man in the tattoos, we must go back to the beginning. Wade Wilson was adopted into a stable, loving home, a fact the prosecution used to prove he had every opportunity to succeed. But the defense presented a darker narrative, a genetic time bomb. They revealed his biological mother suffered from severe mental health challenges, suggesting Wade was born to break. Long before 2019, Wilson was a master of linguistic deflection. He had previously reframed his aggression toward Melissa Montanez as consensual or rough intimacy, gaslighting authorities to avoid consequences for years. But on the day of the murders, his words could no longer hide the reality. After killing his first victim, Wilson hunted Melissa down at her place of work, attacking her in broad daylight just hours before he would claim his second life. This wasn't just a separate incident, it was the moment his practice runs turned into a public, violent reality, proving that his long history of domestic abuse was the true prologue to the Deadpool killer.
I either get drugged, pulled, can't remember, by my hair, arm, or dress, to I'm trying to reason with him, trying to talk to him, but there's nobody behind those eyes anymore. So there was no reasoning with him. I got to the front of the staircase, and I'm holding on to that, and a crowd begins to develop. I'm expecting people to help, call 911, so I'm just trying to bide my time at that point as quickly as help can get there, and that's not working either. I'm starting to get punched and grabbed and choked and all kinds of things again.
She describes him beating her. Notice her face. The trauma leakage is evident. Now look at Wilson. He watches her with effective flattening. He isn't feeling her pain. He is calculating how this testimony affects his life versus death odds.
Somehow we move up to the upper level. I'm trying to convince him, let's just go in Mila Spa. We'll talk about it there. We're safe there.
What was your thought process in getting him to your spa.
Elongate the amount of time it took to get help. I was trying anything that I could to expand the amount of time that I didn't have to go to his car where I'd probably never be seen again. It just elongate the amount of time. I knew help was on its way. The cop even said that's the most amount of pings they've ever heard from a 911 call ever. There was a crowd out there. Okay. So I knew I was going to die that day. I was just buying time.
Mila describes how he wouldn't stop even when she begged. In behavioral psychology, this is predatory control. By ignoring her pleas and later claiming it was what she wanted, he practiced the social camouflage he would later use in the 2019 trial. He was training the legal system to believe his version of reality. Even behind bars, the narcissism never rested. Reports emerged of Wilson attempting to manipulate female jail staff, seeking narcissistic supply, even while facing the needle. He wasn't a man in crisis. He was a man treating the jail like his private stage. Look at how he carries himself in these jail clips. This is impunity. Even when locked away, he believes he can charm his way into special treatment by targeting female staff. He is repeating the pattern we saw with Mila finding a target he believes he can control through his persona. The Save Wade Wilson movement wasn't just social media noise. Thousands of dollars were raised by strangers, blinded by hybristophilia, to ensure he could fight the death penalty. They didn't care about the victims. They cared about the Deadpool aesthetic. This wasn't about freedom. It was about staying in jail forever instead of facing execution. The defense's focus on his illness was a tactical plea for mercy, funded by a digital cult that saw a monster as a martyr. While the world saw a man with tattoos, the prosecution was preparing a witness that would dismantle the insanity defense entirely. Wade Wilson didn't call a lawyer on the night of October 7th. He called his father, Stephen Testaseca. This wasn't a call for help. It was a report of his actions.
Did he end up calling you later that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he tell you in that call that evening?
The final call?
Nope, the call before the final call.
He just told me, he did something. There was 2 people gone that would not be back. He said, I'm a killer. I just told him to call me back. I just thought it was another story,
So at this point, when he says that there were 2 people that wouldn't be with us and that he was a killer, did you put a lot of weight into that?
No, ma'am.
Do you think he was just telling you a story?
He's a good storyteller.
This is a man whose world has been leveled. Notice his shoulder slump and how he avoids looking at the defense table where his son sits. He is experiencing internalized shame. He is here to tell the jury what Wade said when no one was listening.
When he talked about these 2 people who were no longer with us and that he was a killer, did he show any type of remorse?
No, ma'am.
So let's go now to the 10 o'clock call. Again, your wife knew about kind of what was going on during that day?
Yes, ma'am.
And when he called back at 10, did he go into more details about what he had told you earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's start with the first girl. If you could tell the jurors, what did he tell you?
He just said he met a girl at a bar. They went back to her house, hung out for a little bit, and then she fell asleep.
What did he say happened after she fell asleep?
He said he got on top of her and choked her.
What name did he call her? Did he refer to her in a derogatory term?
He said, I choked that bitch.
Okay. And what did he say he did after he choked her?
He said he stayed in the house for a little while, and then he rolled her up and was going to try to put her in her trunk, but he couldn't lift her.
Did he say why he was unable to put her in her trunk?
He said that he felt like rigor mortis had started to set in.
And does rigor mortis make your body stiff? You didn't know?
I think so. Yeah.
So he just told you that was the reason that he couldn't lift her and get her into her trunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And when he said her trunk, it was the trunk of her car he was going to put her in?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did he tell you he did when he couldn't get her body into her own trunk?
He left her there and took her car.
Listen to Stephen recount Wade's words. He tells the jury that Wade admitted to driving over Diane Ruiz until she looked like spaghetti. Notice the father's voice. It's breaking. This is vicarious trauma. Now look at Wade. He is displaying effective flattening. He isn't reacting to his father's pain. He is watching the jury to see if the spaghetti detail is landing.
What did he say about the second girl?
He said he saw her walking down the street and stopped and asked her for directions. And she got in the car with him.
What did he say happened once she got in the car with him?
He said he reached over and choked her.
And did he tell you that he choked her while he was driving?
Yes, ma'am.
What did he say happened after he choked her?
He said he was looking for a place to put her body.
Did he find a place where he eventually dumped her body?
Yes, ma'am.
What did he tell you about the situation when he got to the place where he was going to dump her body?
He said that he pulled her out of the car and realized that she was still breathing.
So what did he tell you he did when he realized she's still breathing?
He said he got back in the car and ran her over until she looked like spaghetti.
Why use that specific word? In behavioral psychology, this is total dehumanization. By comparing a human mother to a domestic food item, Wilson performs moral disengagement. He removes her personhood to make his achievement sound more impressive to his father. This proves he wasn't confused. He was descriptive and proud. Let's look at the GPS signal. The digital reconstruction begins at 4,305, say 9th Terrace, Cape Coral. This is the Melton residence. Immediately following the murder, Wilson steals her vehicle. The telematics show a deliberate exit from a complex residential cul-de-sac. Operating a stolen car and navigating a suburban grid requires high-level executive functioning. He isn't drifting. He is executing a flight plan. The vehicle moves to 1503 NE 13th Terrace. This is the home of Tiffany McSpadine. Wilson wakes her up to show her the stolen car and explicitly confesses he killed someone. This is a critical behavioral marker. He isn't hiding. He's seeking validation. He is testing his notoriety in real time, seeking an audience for the violence he just committed. The signal tracks north 2 to 125. Del Prado, BLVD, south the Powerhouse Gym. This is where he targets Melissa Montanez. His ex-girlfriend, Wilson, doesn't just show up. He brutally beats her. This is a violent, targeted assault on a specific woman he had a history with. This is goal-directed aggression. He is systematically settling scores with women in his life, proving he had a hit list in mind, not a random psychotic break. At 121 Pine Island Road, the sanity debate hits a wall. Wilson encounters a navigational error and stops at a business called The Joint. He walks in and asks for directions to a specific street. To identify a gap in knowledge and use social interaction to fix it is the hallmark of a sane, calculated mind. Following those directions, he intercepts Diane Ruiz near the 400 block of NW 3rd Terrace. Post-strangulation, he drives over the body multiple times. This requires shifting from drive to reverse repeatedly. This is precision motor control, the physical manifestation of coordination and intent. The journey ends at 13,000 Ntamiyami Trail. This wasn't a random police stop. It was a tactical trap set by his father, Stephen Testasica. Stephen lured Wade to this specific used car lot under the guise of providing money and a getaway plan. The fact that Wilson could coordinate a meeting at a precise geographic location at a designated time proves his navigational competence. Inside the interrogation room, the gravity of the murders is absent.
Which jail am I going to?
Oh, they always go to Lee County.
Lee County?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I just want to go to sleep. I'm so tired. It's late.
Me too.
No.
Me too. Me too. So that's what we're here to figure out the rest of what's going on. So that car that you were in that was left at, what's the name of that guy, Mateo?
Mateo.
At Mateo's business. Who did that car belong to?
Some chick I had met that she let me use it.
Okay, where'd you meet that chick?
At the bar.
At what bar?
Buddha.
At the Buddha. Okay. And when did you meet her at the Buddha?
I don't know. I can't remember. 2 days ago. They kind of merged together now.
Okay. So
I had a rough last. Apparently I do coke on that from what you.
Well,
You're my friend and we know we do coke together.
Well, I don't know that, but I was told that you had done some
coke
coke last night.
Here, and that's the issue. Don't do that. Don't be like that.
Okay.
It's never good.
Deal. That's fair.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Okay, cool.
I just wanted to make sure that if I'm told somebody.
If I do blow, it's my business anyways.
Understandable, but you do understand that sometimes when people are on drugs and they come down, they can sometimes have some tendencies and they get a little jittery.
Well, then they shouldn't do drugs, should they?
They shouldn't. You're
Not
right.
their thing.
Instead of remorse, Wilson offers excuses. He explicitly mentions doing coke and doing blow to explain away his actions and his memory gaps. In the high-stakes penalty phase, Wade Wilson's defense team pivoted from the facts of the murders to a desperate attempt to prove that Wilson was a victim of his own biology. Their strategy centered on a singular, controversial argument. Wade Wilson was not evil, but rather chronically and severely mentally ill. But this wasn't just a standard legal defense. In a bizarre modern twist, a legion of online fans had poured thousands of dollars into a defense fund. This money was used to hire a roster of high-priced medical experts, attempting to use forensic science to steer Wilson away from the death penalty. Leading the medical charge for the defense was neuropsychologist Dr. Hyman Eisenstein. He testified that Wilson suffered from significant neurocognitive impairment, the result of multiple head injuries and concussions throughout his life.
Obviously, you're a neuropsychologist and not a neurologist, but after you had him perform all the tests, you interviewed all of these individuals, you compiled the information. What was your ultimate conclusion?
So my ultimate conclusion is that Mr. Wilson has neurocognitive brain impairment. Most likely right hemispheric and also frontal lobe involvement. There's enough data to support that his brain is not functioning like a normal, healthy individual. It's supported by the fact that he has multiple head injuries, and this is a synergistic effect. Each one is adds on in more than just a cumulative, but it's in exponentially, it's worse. And throughout his life, he's had multiple head injuries. And brain scans have been performed, although these are just CT scans, nothing more than that. This is also complicated, certainly by his drug usage over his life, as well as psychiatric conditions, which are numerous. And currently he's on medication. He's been on medication for many, many years to quiet his brain, to have his brain functioning, to try to have him at least at a state of ease in terms of his brain functioning, which he recognizes, and certainly the family recognizes, is abnormal.
But the efforts of Mr. Wilson, and more particularly his family, to correct this have been minimal.
That's correct.
Eisenstein argued that Wilson's brain was compromised, specifically in the areas responsible for impulse control. He was joined by forensic psychiatrist Dr. Mark Mills, who testified that Wilson was severely ill with a psychotic disorder, likely schizoaffective disorder.
And overall, I think the evidence is that Mr. Wilson was adopted at a very early age and appeared to function as a normal member of the family from the age of his adoption at an age of a few months until sometime in around, it's from my notes here, from in around 2007. His mother and his father both report that he became, over that summer between school terms, he became increasingly isolated, reclusive, hostile, paranoid, different, significantly different. On her own, Mrs. Wilson said, look, I've had 2 other kids, 2 daughters. I understand boys and girls are different, but I've had 2 other kids, and sure, they change around adolescent, but they didn't go, if you will, from Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde. They didn't go from day to night.
Wade's adoptive parents saw the warning signs early. Desperate to save their son from his own instability, they eventually resorted to the Baker Act, essentially forcing him into emergency psychiatric evaluation. But the system failed him. Despite the intervention, doctors never provided a definitive diagnosis or a long-term treatment plan, leaving a deeply troubled child to navigate a fractured mind without a map.
Were you aware that his biological mother may have had mental health issues?
I learned that. I hadn't known that. I learned that from, I guess her name is Candy, from Mrs. Wilson, the mom.
Okay. And is that something that can be passed on to a child?
Well, it's significant information. The most serious psychiatric illnesses, of course, are the psychoses, are schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, paranoid disorder, schizoaffective disorder, that group. And for the psychotic illnesses, the heritability is very high. So that, I mean, if a mom or a dad has it, the likelihood of a child having a psychotic illness goes from about 1%, which is the general rate in the population, potentially as high as up to 50%. Depends on the nature of the illness and the study. But there's a huge increase in the likelihood of manifesting such illnesses if one, let alone 2 parents, have significant psychiatric disorders.
So, did you make any diagnosis or determinations based upon the information that you had?
Yeah, my diagnosis and belief is that Mr. Wilson has some kind of psychotic disorder. Sadly, because he was not particularly forthcoming with me, I can't characterize it very well.
Once Wade moved past his teenage years, the window for help slammed shut. He began refusing all professional medical care, turning his back on the doctors who might have stabilized him. Instead, he chose a different path of self-medication, trading psychiatric prescriptions for a destructive cycle of street drugs that only pushed his hollow core further into the dark.
Here we've heard about mood swings that could suggest bipolar disorder. We heard about a diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder in the JO records. There's a good study going back to really my time in medical school called The Stages of Mania, which says, 1972 was the date of the study, you can't distinguish acutely between schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and schizoaffective disorder. So I don't know exactly what Mr. Wilson has, but I think it is very significant, and I think it is a psychotic level illness, and his degree of paranoia, that at some point Mr. Wilson's mother, Candy's father, perished, and that the family moved into his home. And in the morning, everybody would get up, and I guess people would go to school, and she would, of course, Mrs. Wilson would go up, would make breakfast for the family, and would open the curtains, and the house would sort of be functioning. Well, Mr. Wilson, as a kid, and he was 15 or 16.
That's Wade Wilson.
That's Wade Wilson, yeah. As a kid, age 15 or 16, would go around and systematically close the curtains. And at some point, probably the first or second time, Mrs. Wilson recalled saying, well, why are you doing this? What's wrong? What's going on? And he said, there are people out there. And she said, okay. And he said, they're going to harm me. And she said, are you sure? And he said, they're going to harm you too, Mom. They're going to harm the family. And he was very upset. And this happened more than once. That is, he had an apparent belief that others were intending to harm him and the family for reasons that were never specified. Now that sounds, frankly, not only paranoid, but delusional. It isn't just that he was frightened or scared, but he had turned that fear into an entity or a group of entities who were planning to harm him and the family.
Dr. Michael Herkov followed, diving into Wilson's cognitive impairments and arguing that he functioned in a state of mental chaos, unable to process the world like a normal person. Even the neurologist, Dr. Mark Rubino, highlighted the severe physical damage within Wade's brain. By analyzing specialized scans, he pointed to clear evidence of atrophy and broken neural connections, physical defects that he argues left Wilson in a state of constant mental dysfunction and emotional chaos.
There are two basic conclusions. One, with the ventricular asymmetry. Ventricular asymmetry can be a normal finding, but in the setting of psychiatric disease, it indicates cognitive and emotional dysfunction.
How does that manifest itself in somebody's conduct?
It's going to cause worse behavior. It's going to cause less thinking. It's going to cause less the atrophy of his superior anterior temporal lobes as well as his frontal lobes is a important combination. When you have atrophy of your amygdala, which is one of your main points of your limbic system, it creates for emotional instability. It makes you more likely to get mad and not be able to calm yourself down. Frontal lobe impairments cause one to be more likely to be impulsive and act without regard to consequence. Act without plan. More likely to be irritated and agitated. And the frontal lobe is also important for stopping behavior arising out of your temporal lobe.
Is there anything that can be done to repair or replace?
No, but medication can be helpful at modifying his behavior, mostly from psychiatric disease, because this isn't somebody with this injury on top of bipolar disorder, major depression, schizoaffective disorder, whatever it may be. It's going to make it worse. So if you at least treat the psychiatric disease.
Dr. Rubino further noted that Wade's condition was deeply aggravated by a lack of consistent treatment. He explained that while the brain damage was permanent, the failure to keep him on proper antipsychotic medication meant his underlying psychiatric diseases were left to spiral, lending directly to the impulsive, uncontrollable behavior that resulted in this tragedy. However, the state's expert provided a devastating rebuttal. Dr. Coyne, a forensic pathologist, testified that a review of Wilson's brain scans showed a structurally normal adult brain, no tumors, no lesions, and no signs of the frontal lobe damage the defense claimed.
As a radiologist, or just as a physician for that matter, I would have looked at these instead of normal brain. If I was writing up a brain pathology report based upon this, I would call this a structurally normal adult brain, and I wouldn't be concerned about anything significant to chase after. Our brain is not 100% symmetrical. And when you look at one side or the other, you're going to see differences in just the general morphology that you can pick out with your eye. But again, it's really the total volume that matters. And in this case, that wasn't done. It's inappropriate to do one single measurement like that and then generalize to the asymmetry of a ventricle.
Now, the other thing he talked about was the difference in size of ventricles. Could you just explain whether that's significant or not?
So I know that there is certainly a wealth of literature out there looking at ventricular asymmetry and its involvement in psychiatric illness. The problem is that, still to this day, whether you have schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or other well-known psychiatric illnesses, there isn't a neuroanatomical substrate that allows one to diagnose an underlying psychiatric condition. And so we can try to generalize by saying, well, this brain region is involved, we know that this brain region is involved in these types of behaviors, so therefore if we see a change here, we would expect to have this kind of behavioral abnormality. But That doesn't necessarily always hold true. There's certainly a lot of compensatory changes from one side of the brain to the other. And again, like I said, there's different functional reserves from one person to the next.
The prosecution's message was surgical. People can do evil things without having brain damage. They argued that despite the thousands of dollars spent on expert testimony, Wilson's actions weren't the result of a broken brain, but a depraved heart. Throughout the trial, experts argued over the state of Wade Wilson's mind, but the most revealing evidence didn't come from a brain scan. It came from the man himself. Even when Judge Nicholas Thompson gave him the final opportunity to show a shred of remorse, to offer an explanation, or to speak directly to the families he destroyed, this was his answer.
Oh, well, Mr. Wilson, you have an opportunity, just like during any of the other phases of, well, let me just finish real quick. Any other phases during the case, if you want to address the court, I would permit you to do that. Obviously, everything's recorded, but you would have that opportunity if you wish. No one can prevent you from addressing the court if you wish to, and no one can make you address the court if you don't want to. So it is a decision that's solely left up to you if you want to address the court or not.
Not today. Later, when I come back, I will. Today,
okay.
No, I won't.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That wasn't just a refusal, it was a performance. Notice how he interrupts the judge before the question is even finished. A final, desperate attempt to maintain control in a room where he had lost everything. His casual tone and the smirk behind his words reveal a terrifying clinical reality. There is no weight to his crimes in his own mind. To Wilson, a double murder sentencing was just another game of linguistic deflection. By saying, maybe next time, he treated a death penalty hearing like a missed appointment, proving to the world that, beneath the tattoos and the Deadpool persona, there was no diseased mind seeking help, only a hollow core that remained cold until the very end. The doctors had finished their debate. The brain scans had been analyzed and the diseased mind argument had been laid bare. But as the medical experts left the stand, the cold science of the courtroom was replaced by a raw, suffocating grief. It was time for the families of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz to give a voice to the dead.
Samantha, who is this a photograph of?
That's Christine Melton and my daughter wearing outfits that they got for Christmas to match.
And what did the shirt say?
Do good.
Samantha, would you please read the statement that you prepared to the jurors?
Yes. Christine Melton was my best friend and my cousin until October 7th, 2019. It is my task to describe this beautiful human and to somehow capture Christine in a way that 12 strangers and 2 alternates can understand, using only my words. And I will do so sitting no more than 20 feet from the convicted.
As Samantha speaks, her voice breaking under the weight of losing Christine, the camera finds Wade. There is no flinch, no tear, and no sign of remorse. He sits there like a statue, eyes blank, completely detached, as if he is a stranger to the very tragedy he created. It is the chilling image of a man who isn't just refusing to apologize, but one who simply isn't there.
Who beat Christine, murdered Christine, and threw her away like garbage. I hope you will understand this is not the ideal scenario to be sharing personal stories, although you would have loved them. Christine will never experience motherhood, a role she was born to play. Christine was strong, brave, independent, loyal. She was the friend you wished you had. She was the friend who got more fired up about your problems than you did. Every relationship or friendship she had was special because she was part of it. She was a cheerleader to us all. She loved us unconditionally, completely, and with her entire being until October 7th, 2019. Christine's mother has not been at this trial. Once Christine was murdered, She was never the same. How could she be? Her health declined quickly. She left Florida. We have sat through graphic testimony and heard all of the positively gruesome details of how our girl met our end. And I sit here today and I listen, because that's what Christine would have done. She would have sacrificed her sanity to see justice done. And so I have done the same.
The victim impact statements were a devastating reminder of the lives Wade Wilson had extinguished. Christine's family spoke of a woman who was the light of every room, a life cut short in a senseless act of violence inside her own home. Then came the family of Diane Ruiz, the mother who was walking to work when she encountered a monster. Their words weren't about brain damage or concussions. They were about the birthdays, holidays, and futures that Wilson had stolen.
I'm Diane Ruiz's youngest child. I was only 14 years old when she passed. Just starting my freshman year of high school, she was so excited to see me grow up. And so proud of what I was growing into. She supported me in all my dreams and only tried to help and uplift me when taking on new risks and challenges. My father unfortunately passed away when I was only 11 years old. My mother was all I had left. I was in marching band, and the week prior she was telling me how excited she was to go and watch me perform at that weekend's football game. She would have been her first time seeing me perform because that was my first year in that marching band. She never got to see me perform, and I never got the experience of seeing her in the crowd. I got my first job. I'm getting my first apartment July. I'm a year ahead in my college education, and I have my first internship as a graphic designer. I only listed 13 out of many, both big and small, achievements. All 13 of these achievements my mom didn't get the chance to see me accomplish. My mother will never get the chance to see me get married, get to see me graduate college as a first generation graduate, get to see me get my first real job. During college, I was sent to the ER for the first time. I got into my first car accident, and the only person I wanted to call was my mom, or how she went missing. I trusted my gut so much. Everything told me that she was coming home. How everybody in my town knew that she was dead before me, or how on my 15th birthday I almost killed myself because I couldn't bear the idea without turning 15 without my mom. I lived 5 years without her, and not a single day has gone by where I haven't been able to not think about her.
Throughout the testimony, Wilson's demeanor remained chillingly detached. While the families poured out their souls, he adjusted his tie and stared at the walls, seemingly more concerned with the tattoos on his face than the lives he had destroyed. To the prosecution, this wasn't the behavior of a sick man, it was the arrogance of a predator. The jury had made their recommendation, but in the Florida legal system, the final weight of the law rests on the shoulders of the judge. Wade Wilson had spent months under the spotlight of global attention, a TikTok famous killer whose fans continued to send money and letters, even as the evidence of his brutality became undeniable. Now, the time for performance was over. Judge Nicholas Thompson didn't just look at the brain scans. He looked at the totality of the circumstances. He recounted the premeditated brutality, the beating and strangulation of Christine Melton, and the horrific abduction of Diane Ruiz, whom Wilson strangled, beat, and then repeatedly ran over with a car. The judge acknowledged the diseased mind argument, noting Wilson's history of drug use and mental health issues. But his conclusion was surgical. The aggravating factors, the sheer cruelty of the acts, greatly outweighed any mitigation.
The totality of the circumstances warrants that the defendant, Wade Stephen Wilson, be sentenced to death for each count of first-degree murder. Accordingly, it is ordered in the judge that the defendant, Wade Stephen Wilson, be sentenced as follows. Count 1, first-degree murder of Christine Melton. The defendant is hereby sentenced to death. Count 2, grand theft of a motor vehicle. The defendant is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment in the Florida Department of Corrections. Count 3, battery. The defendant is hereby sentenced to 364 days in the Lee County Jail. Count 4, first-degree murder of Diane Ruiz. The defendant is hereby sentenced to death. Count 5, the burglary of a dwelling, the defendant is hereby sentenced to 15 years imprisonment in the Florida Department of Corrections. Count 6, petty theft, the defendant is hereby sentenced to 364 days in Lee County Jail.
The sentence was a rejection of every excuse the defense had bought with fan-funded dollars. There would be no life in prison, no chance for a diseased mind to find another victim. As Wilson was fingerprinted and led away in chains, the message from the bench was clear: for the murders of Christine and Diane, the only proportionate price was the ultimate one: